Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. My name is Heather, and on this channel we like to walk a very fine line between a shopping addicted makeup monster and a responsible adult with a makeup hobby. I really enjoy eyeshadow singles, duochromes, multi-chromes, palettes, blush, highlight, bronzer, lip gloss, basically everything except pressed glitter, and today we are going to be ranking all of my Colourpop 9-pan palettes. There's 21. I don't know how this happened. If that sounds like something you're interested in, stick with me. We're getting into it right now. If you like this look, definitely be sure to check out my video that I did on the Alien Cosmetics Strawberry Milkshake palette. That is where this look came from, and I will try to leave a link to that in the cards. But let's go ahead and dive into these palettes because there are 21 of these 9-pan palettes. I hope I'm not missing any, but I wanted to go through and rank them just because I thought that would be kind of something fun to do. There are a couple here to start that I have not even gotten a chance to play with yet, and I think that tells me a little bit something about like where they would fall in my collection. So we're going to start with the Miss Bliss palette, which is one of their pastel palettes. And this is one I actually have not yet used. I purchased this because I was originally trying to stave off getting the Glamlight Ice Cream Dream palette, and then ultimately ended up getting that palette anyway. So was this a super necessary purchase? Probably not, but I do think that the color story is pretty. I want to try to play, especially with this shade down here, is like really calling to me as I open this up. So I think at some point I'm going to need to go through and do a look with some of these palettes. If there are any that I talk about today that you're like, girl, I need to see a video from you on it, definitely leave me a comment down below and I'll try to prioritize that. But Miss Bliss came to 21. At number 20, I put Aura and Out, which is this one right here. I actually have used this as part of a look for my Green Week series that I did back in March around St. Patrick's Day, and I really liked these two shades. I thought they were really, really pretty. I'm not a huge fan of these two shades. I mean, I just think they're kind of unnecessary, and I do like these kind of minty shades. This one has kind of a blue flip to it, which I like, but I'm so tired of the pressed glitters in these palettes. I'm hoping that Colourpop is finally starting to move away from that, because I don't want to put things that are not eye safe near my eyes. So I tend to not be a huge fan of the palettes that have the pressed glitters in them, and actually I have moved away from buying them altogether. So from Colourpop, I try to avoid buying anything that has pressed glitters in it at this point. Alright, number 19 was the In a Trance palette. So this is the third of that kind of tie-dye pastel collection, and I really like this one because I think these like kind of iridescent shades and these cool toned blue, purple, pink shades are very unique. I don't see cool toned blue, purple shades very often in palettes, so I thought that that was a really cool, like, unique feature to this palette, which is why I ranked it higher than the other two. I have not had a chance to play with this one very much. I did try taking some of this glitter out to mix a nail polish, and these glitters don't work for a nail polish, so that did not work, but that's why that one has a bit of a divot in it. But I definitely want to get this one out and play with it soon because I think it is really pretty. It's arguably very pretty. Alright, the next one I got was Baby Got Peach. Now, funnily enough, the reason why I purchased this palette in the first place was for that shade Hungry Ghost, because I was so obsessed with the appearance of that glitter that I just like couldn't get it out of my head. And I wasn't going to buy the whole palette for it because I'm like, I'm not going to use this palette. And then I ended up buying it. I have used it a couple times, and I do think the shades are really pretty, but I think now that my tastes have like changed a little bit more, I need to revisit some of the palettes that I previously had kind of put to the side, because I think there are shades in those palettes that I used to like completely look over that now I would be really inspired to play with. For example, this Get Even shade, Glaze It, I think those would be really pretty, and I've never actually used either of those two shades. So I definitely want to start getting some of these palettes out and use shades that I haven't used in them before. I think that's going to be, you know, something that I look forward to doing here. Alright, number 17? Yeah, 17 goes to the Going Coconuts palette, and this is a, you know, kind of warm tone neutral palette. I originally did not think I needed to pick this one up, but then when Natasha Denona released the Glam palette, I was so like enamored with that palette, and then ultimately it got me kind of back interested in nude or like neutral eyeshadows, but deeper, because when I first got into makeup I was using kind of like mid-tone or lighter. Like, I don't even think I would have reached for something this dark because I was so nervous I was gonna look like crazy putting these dark shades on. Look at me now. But that was something that I really stayed away from. So now that I'm, you know, a little bit more experienced with makeup, I feel more comfortable. You know, I think getting these palettes with these kind of deeper shades in them is something I'm going to really enjoy playing with. So like this shade really calls to me. This shade really calls to me. I think this would be a gorgeous inner corner highlight. So yeah, since it's neutral, I ranked it a little bit lower, but it definitely does still inspire me. And then coming right before that, number 16, this is the Making Mauves palette, and it looks like this. So I really love these Super Shocks here in the center. I love this really dark, like kind of grungy purple here. I'm not as big of a fan of these more like brown toned mauves. I definitely tend to stick to these other shades more because I think those, you know, more align with what I envision as like a mauve eye look. I got this and the That's Taupe palette together on one of their 30% off sales, so I think that was like a good bargain for me. But I realized because I have so many like pinky purpley palettes that I don't necessarily reach for this one as often as I reach for some of my other Colourpop 9 pans, which is why it ranks a little lower. Alright, next. This is the Honey palette, and this is the yellow monochromatic palette. Again, you have a pressed glitter in the middle. I don't love that. But I do really love this kind of grungy, almost like olive leaning metallic, and I love this darker like kind of burnt mustard shade called Buzzkill. I think these bright yellows are really nice. I love these kind of lighter tones, so you really have a lot to like, you know, give yourself a little bit more dimension than just everything looking the exact same on the eye, so I do appreciate that. I like the shades that they picked for the metallics. I just wish there wasn't a pressed glitter. I'm so tired of pressed glitters. Next is Orange You Glad, and it looks like this. And it looks like this inside. I love these like neon pops of orange. Those were what sold me on picking up this palette entirely because they just looked so pretty. These two metallic shades are also very pretty. I like that you have kind of a darker shade here to deepen up your look so that you get a little bit more balance, a little bit more depth, and you do have one shade that you kind of blend things out with. Now the only downside with this one is that there are 6 matte shades and only 2 metallics and 1 glitter. So if you take the glitter out, by the time you take that pressed glitter out of the equation, you're kind of stuck with like not a lot of other colors. So one of the things I had thought about doing, because I have so many of these palettes that have pressed glitters in them, was taking some of the palettes, some of the pastel shades out of that pastel collection and switching them out for the glitters, so that then these were completely non-glitter palettes. So that's something that I may do in the future, just because I think I would get more use out of the palettes that way, and I could kind of add like a pop of either maybe a similar color or the same color. Like I have a little bit more flexibility there, so something I might do in the future. Next we have the Colourpop Mean Squeeze palette, and this one looks like this. Now when I first got this one, I was so hyped for it. I really love this Baywatch shade. I think it's such a like nice, deep, kind of almost cool toned red. I like this Juicy Fruit shade because it looks gold in the pan, but it's actually a little bit more red on the lids. The only downside, these palettes drive me crazy because the magnets are not strong enough to actually hold all of these shades in place, so some of the shades will like pop out over time, which makes me so nervous when I open them. But I do like this one. It's just not one that I use as much, so it ranked a little bit lower. So coming in at number 12, this is the Just My Luck palette. Now I use this actually to make a really cool like Hulk look on my Instagram. You can see a picture of that if you go a little bit farther back in time. But I do really like this. I think the greens that they picked out are really nice. I love that you have kind of this vibrant chartreuse green, and you also have kind of these more olivey shades. So that makes it feel a little bit less monochromatic, which I appreciate because I think we've gotten to the point where we have enough monochromatic palettes. So putting those things in that make things feel a little bit less like one note is going to be really important. So that I thought was a great addition. This olive shade I thought was a great addition. This charmed kind of greeny brown shade I think is really important. These two shades I think are a little bit too similar, and when you use them together I don't think you get a significant difference between the two, so for that reason I kind of like ranked it a little bit lower, but I do think this is a really pretty palette too. Coming in at number 11, this is the first purple palette, and this is It's My Pleasure. So this is the first palette that I picked up because I was like, yes, Colourpop did a purple palette. Except it's not really a purple palette, it's like a burgundy palette. So You have this shade Chicklet, which is definitely a purple, but beyond that, these are all very like fuchsia burgundy type shades. They're not really purple per se. And that was something that was kind of disappointing to me, because in my mind I felt like this was going to be a purple palette, and then in reality it really wasn't. So I kind of got a little bit disappointed with that, which is why it's ranking a little bit lower. I do think the quality is nice, but again, I wanted purple. Like the outside is purple, the inside is not. And that's what kind of got me disappointed about this one. The next palette to talk about is the Lala Palette. And it has one shade that is like crumbling so much. So I'm trying to keep it. When I actually opened this palette on camera, this whole shade up here fell straight out onto the floor. So the fact that I was able to rescue that much of the shade is already impressive. I really like this palette. I think this Moonstruck shade and this Tickled shade are both really nice like foils to the rest of the palette. I really love this hot pink, and you do have kind of a purpley shade here, which I like. I think these kind of pinky toned neutrals will really kind of round out a look and make it nice and soft. So I, all in all, really enjoy this palette. I did not get this one for a long time because I had another pink palette, but I ended up getting this one when it was on clearance, and I was really happy with my purchase. So the other pink palette that I already had, which is part of why I didn't get Ooh La La for so long, is the Strawberry Shake palette. And this palette is actually, you know, it's got some pinks in it, like this and this, definitely pinks. This is like a pink metallic, you know, kind of these pinky neutral type shades. But then you have more of these like reddy orange type shades, and you have this orange gold duochrome type shade that I think, again, give it a little bit more dimension, a little bit more interest, so it's not just purely a monochromatic palette. So between the two of these, I really think that you can put together a really strong, like vibrant pink look, or you can do something very soft and subdued. So I really do like these. I think this one I like just a smidge more for the diversity in the shades. The next palette to talk about is the Blue Moon palette, and it looks like this. I think this is probably one of the first palettes from their monochromatics that I picked up, because I was so hyped for these blues. I love that you have kind of this denim blue here. I love this iridescent blue-white shade. Oh, it's so pretty on the inner corner. This Mad About You shade looks really nice, like smudged into the lower lash line, just a little bit of metallic there. And again, you have these really kind of interesting, like cool tone blues here to kind of balance everything out. This navy, I've been really into navy eyeshadow recently, so I'm definitely getting a lot more enjoyment out of my blue palettes because of that reason. So this one ranked higher for that reason. Next is the Colourpop Mint Tippy palette, and when they came out with this one, I was so excited because I really like these kind of tones, and I thought it was the first in kind of what was going to end up being their pastel line, so I think that that was pretty cool. Some things that I don't love about this palette, I think this Play Cool shade and Freshman, they're very similar, so on the lid, they're not going to look that much different. These minty shades, like the greens here, I think these two are very similar. So I wish they would have made this one go just a little bit darker so that you had a little bit more depth and variation with those colors. I think if you try to do like a sunset eye with these mattes here, you would only really see like 2 shades. You wouldn't see like full 3 shades. So I think it could have been a little bit better, but I know they were trying to keep it like light as possible. So I do really like this one. Alright, next up is That's Taupe. And like I said, I picked this one up because I was like really vibing for the Natasha Denona Soft Glam, but because I don't wear neutrals on a daily basis, I thought, you know, I don't know if I want to spend $65 on a palette that I'm probably not going to wear every single day. So I ended up getting this palette instead, and I really like these neutrals that they put in, that they are so like deep in comparison to some of these other palettes that just don't go very dark. I like that these go a lot darker. I love this kind of gunmetal shade here, this cold-blooded shade here. This one almost leans a little bit pink, which I can appreciate, and then this is a Super Shock, and when you put it on, it's like having aluminum foil on your eyes. It's amazing. So after I saw Bean do her video with this palette, I was like, yep, I'm gonna need that one too. So I ended up picking it up on a sale. That way it wasn't as expensive. I think it was originally like $14, but I got them on sale so that at least it didn't feel like such a a financial hit if I didn't use it every single day. Next up is the Colourpop Mar palette, which a friend of mine actually used over the weekend, and she made the cutest look ever. So I'm gonna have to recreate that look at some point because I think it was very pretty. But this is what this palette looks like. There was also a Soul palette that went with this one in a pair, which was a similar like brown color story with pops of like red orange instead of the blues. I didn't feel the need to pick that one up because I feel like I already have, like I have Yes Please and a couple other palettes that are like reds, orange, browns, so I didn't think I needed that one, but this one drew my eye. I really love this kind of aqua blue, like darker than turquoisey blue shade in combination with some of these other metallics and this top down shade. They look so pretty. I don't always reach into Detour or Highway as often, but the rest of this kind of constellation I really enjoy using together, and I think the looks come out really pretty. So the hunt for purple continued, and I picked up the Lilac Palette palette, and that is a mouthful. But this actually feels like a purple palette. You've got a whole row of purples here at the bottom. You've got some really pretty metallics that you can play off. This one is almost like a lavender purple with a strong gold flip type duochrome, so it almost makes it look pink even though it's definitely a purple. I love, you know, the mattes that they chose here. I think they did a good job, and I think these are all different enough that you're gonna actually see this gradient on the eyes. So I really appreciate this one, which is why it's ranked so high. Now you may not have saw this coming, but Blowing Smoke is in my top 3. Blowing Smoke made it to my top 3. And the reason for that is whenever I have an eye look that I want to do and I need a black for it or I need a silver for it and I don't have one that comes in the palette that I'm working with, I often reach into this palette to kind of round out my looks. So I really appreciate the variation and the depth in these shades to be able to like put a cohesive look together. These metallic shades in the middle are gorgeous. I love this shade here. It is actually called Night Dream, and it has a bunch of like gold and blue sparkles in it, which I think is so pretty. It doesn't always translate on the eye as much as I almost wish it looked metallic with that same kind of foil finish, but or those same colors. If those same colors were picked up in a metallic, I think I would really appreciate that even more. But I really like this palette, and I think it works so complementary to other palettes when I use them together. Alright, so if you guys have been keeping score, you should already know what my top 2 palettes are because I have videos on both of them up on my channel. So if you know, leave a comment down below. But my number 2 palette is High Tide. So I actually just got this one recently, and there is a video up on my channel, but this palette is fantastic. They're definitely doing deeper shades. There's no pressed glitters. You still have some of these mattes with the shimmers put in it. I personally don't care about that. I know some people get worked up. I'm not that person. If they don't put a pressed glitter in it, I'm thrilled. That's a fair compromise for me. This Muscle Beach shade is like a duochrome, like eggplant to like a teal kind of a shade, and it just looks so pretty all over the eyes. I really love how these two metallics kind of complement this one as well in an eye look. All in all, I was so thrilled with this one, and I used this pretty much a week straight with no objections. It was just such a fun palette to work with, and I definitely will continue to enjoy using this one, which is why it made it all the way up to number 2. And my number 1 palette for my Colourpop 9 pan palettes, after 20 other contenders, the one that beat them all out is Wine and Only. So not only because of the theming, because I love, you know, wine as a theme, I'm all about that, but the depth and richness of these shades speaks to me. It gives me that pinky purple vibe, but like deeper, richer, bolder, more vibrant. I love this shade here, Mon Chéri. I think it is such a pretty shade. These other metallics play off of it so nicely. These mattes, oh gosh, these mattes are so pretty. When you blend them out, they just look so rich and vibrant, but you can still get like a nice gradient between these two. I will admit these two are actually pretty similar, so did they need both of them? Not necessarily. They probably could have made one a smidge lighter, but I'm okay with that. Overall, I think this is a stunning palette. Every time I wear this palette, I get a lot of compliments from other people on the looks that I've come up with. So I think even though this one is, you know, definitely very monochromatic in comparison to some of the others, I still really like it for the richness that it gives. Alright, you guys, and that is all 21 of my 9pan palettes ranked from Colourpop. You guys are going to have to let me know in a comment down below. Did I kind of surprise you with my ordering, or did everything kind of make sense based on what you've seen on my channel so far? I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in my next video.